So what I'm going to do is, first of all, let me thank RAI for inviting me here to speak, and specifically thank Kinjal Shah of Crossword for talking to me and then motivating me to come and do this talk. So you may be wondering, what is an ad guy going to be talking to retail HR experts? So I'm not going to give you advice on HR. I'm not qualified to do that. And I'm not going to only talk about advertising, because you may say, are you wasting your time talking about ads? So I'm going to talk about my book and try and link it to the broader HR practice that you have. Right? So the book from where I'm going to draw some inspiration is my latest book, which is about Noodles. And what I'm going to do is to really link it to, how can we map certain social trends that are happening around us and link it to the HR practices. Because I believe, and from all the conversation I heard for the last 20, 30 minutes I was in the hall, it's all very internally focused, employees, so is it worthwhile for HR professionals to actually pull out and look at the society at large and see what is changing in society and how is it going to impact the lives of our company and of our employees? Are there things we can learn on what we should do with our employees, but from outside, from society? So that's a broad terrain which I'll try and cover in the next 18 minutes. So what is advertising role in a changing society, and what can HR learn from it? Can we understand change? Can we predict change? Can we drive change? Okay. So this is what India was, right? Not too far back, some of us in the room have lived in this India, which probably had one car, one airline, two brands of refrigerators, and two brands of TV. And today we are looking at a very different India. Organized retail, high-speed trains, etc., 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 etc. And my book about Noodles is about this changing India, how India has changed over the last 50 years, seen through the lens of advertising. And I've got 4 sections of the book, and the first section really talks about people, young people, old people. Second section talks about products, which is apparel, food, etc., etc. Third one talks about services, and the fourth section is about how advertising itself has changed. So I'll not take you through all that, because all that may not be in any way relevant to you. So let's look at a few aspects of how the society has changed and what can we pull out from there for the sake of our own HR learning. So for example, if you go back, and not go far back, but 20, 30 years, this was life in India, right? Entire married life was equal to that of a pressure cooker. And you had true love expressed by what we call pressure cooker with gasket release system. So let's see that ad. Sound.
चलेगा प्रेशर कुकर? थोड़ा ज्यादा लगा दे जनाब, तो थोड़ा अच्छा प्रेशर कुकर लेके देंगे आप। अगर अपनी जान से भी ज्यादा प्यारी है इनकी जान, तो फिर ये 100% सुरक्षित प्रेस्टीज लेके देंगे श्रीमान। लेकिन प्रेस्टीज जो कि सिर्फ इसी में है, अनोखा गास्केट रिलीज सिस्टम, जिससे जरा भी खतरा नहीं रहता। ये देखिए, ये इस तरह काम होता है। अगर कुछ दाने में वेंट में फंस जाए, तो साधारण प्रेशर कुकर में जरूरत से ज्यादा प्रेशर जमा होने से खतरा पैदा हो सकता है। लेकिन नए प्रेस्टीज में सेफ्टी में कैसा भी लगा हो, अनोखे गास्केट रिलीज सिस्टम की वजह से आप सुरक्षित रूप से बाहर निकल जाती है। जी, तो प्रेस्टीज ही नीचे जो बीवी से सचमुच करते थे यार, वो प्रेस्टीज से कैसे करेंगे उनका?
This was married life. You expressed true love to your wife by buying her a pressure cooker with the Anokha gasket release system. And around that time, there was also another brand which talked of married life. And that talked of married life in a different context, which is a brand called Will's Filter, which had this fantastic campaign were made for each other. And this particular print ad ran unchanged for 10 years. The same ad ran for 10 years. And I was talking to the brand manager there, who was running it. He said, look, we couldn't get an ad better than this. They even ran a made for each other contest. Okay, so this was then, right? All this changed a couple of years ago when this ad went on air. And then we'll look at what that means.
Choice नहीं है, तुम्हें ही करना ही पड़ेगा.
लेकिन प्रिया ने कम टाइम में ये सब कैसे होगा?
Sorry guys, you'll have to manage it. Okay? You should start now.
What HR can learn from this, or should you then offer cooking classes for your men, right? As a value addition, as something which should job enrichment we talked about, then something. So, how are you going to help your employees bond better with their wives? Learn to cook, learn to change diapers, maybe learn to go into grocery shopping. So the whole definition of marriage is dramatically changed in the last 30 years in India. That's one part of the book. The other area which I think is dramatically changed is what I call old age. From a life of goli kha ke jeeta hoon, the old people are now saying, holiday pe jata hoon. And the ad which kind of embedded this goli kha ke jeeta hoon was this ad. So this was, a lot of ads used to be there about, goli, about tonic, about chawanprash. Old age is all that. Old age has changed now. A few years ago, an insurance company ran this ad where this old man was gifting his wife a diamond. And the wife says, is umar mein heere? And the old man says, heere ko kya pata, tera umar kya hai? And there was another ad that talked about an old man, going on a holiday because some friend's niece is getting married. So this is the old people today in India are defining life differently. Okay? And I'm working with a business school, trying to see if we can bring some of the retired executives back into academia. Okay? Can we create a 1 week, 2 week orientation program where we can train them to come back into academia and become productive? Now, I don't know whether you guys in HR talk of digital stuff. There are going to be millions of very good people are going to be pushed out of the working system just because they're 58 or 60. They still have probably 10 years of work life left. What are you doing about it? These people didn't talk about it at all. I was shocked. there are going to be millions of people who are going to be available. And we talked, they may be not able to work 8, 9 hours, they will work 3, 4, 5 hours. And that's something which HR can learn from society, that this is a societal trend. Are you listening to society? Are you watching society? Are you observing what is happening? Let's move to another area which all of us know about, which is jobs. And people here did speak eloquently about this. Jobs, more of the job. And it was not too long back in India, everything was sold on the basis of a job. Right? You wash your detergent, and then you get a job. You apply a lot of talcum powder, you get a job. You apply a lot of face cream, you get a job. So a lot of products, whether it was suiting, shirtings, detergents, fairness cream, talc, were all sold on the platform that you use this, you can get a job. That changed in 2005 with this ad and this campaign, which our agency was involved with, the agency I was working in. All of you remember this?
So report 1. Report 2. So shut up.
Sir, hotel reservation desk on line 2.
Yes, I would like to book a table for 2.
Sure, sir.
Poolside.
Your name, sir?
Hari Sadu.
What, sir?
Hari Sadu.
Sir, may I? Yes, write down Hari Saru. H for Hitler, A for arrogant, R for rascal, I for idiot. That's it. Not Saru. S for shameless.
So this, in fact, I admire the client to approve this ad because, actually the person who's paying him money, or the Hari Sadhus who give money to post the job postings on the website. But, this is a client, Sanjeev Vichchandani, who cleared this ad, it's a very bold ad. So a large number of people today are in this mode, saying, I will quit my job because I don't like my boss. And the single biggest reason why people quit jobs is because they don't like their boss. Interestingly, yesterday I came across this, or 2 days ago, I came across this little report, I think in the Economic Times, and it talks of many reasons why people quit their job, many reasons why when they want their job. And finally, it all totals up to this: do I have flexibility? Do I have freedom? Does my boss micromanage? Is there adequate process? So finally, it comes to that. So the challenge today in India is twofold. On the one hand, you do have millions of people who are underqualified to do any job at all. Right? And so there is a challenge of trying to train them, and that's a large part of what HR does. But at the same time, there is a large number of people also who are walking around with 3 jobs in their pocket. Now, how do you create policy which manages this dichotomy? On the one hand, unskilled people who knock on your door to get a job. On the other hand, the guy who actually has 3 or 4 jobs in his pocket at any point in time. So these are just 3 areas from my book I pulled out, which could be of relevance, use to HR professions. Moving on, and I think, what is the role of advertising in terms of what is the role of HR? So I will look at how we in advertising and brands do something and see if we can find some parallels to what HR should be doing. For example, brands do a very serious job of listening. We do a lot in terms of listening to what is happening to the consumer's lives. And all of you remember this character, Lalita ji, right? Done for Saurav. I was professor friend of mine in New York University pointed out that was the first ad in which an upper middle class woman was shown out in the market alone without a husband to protect her. So she was the warrior, she was ready to go and fight the shopkeeper. Okay? And interestingly, this serial, which some of you may remember, Rajini, later Priya Tendulkar, followed that ad 1 year later, which means the brand and the agency had managed to track a social trend almost a year before television producers and film producers tracked it. So are you doing enough to track social trends? One question to leave with you. The other, which brands do very well, is to understand gender roles. How are gender roles changing today? Now, this is an interesting campaign being run currently by a brand called Ariel. Right? learning things and how his daughter is suffering because of that. Okay. Now, are we doing enough in retail to understand the change in gender roles? That it's males, females, what are they doing? For example, I don't know, maybe there is, but is there an all-woman retail outlet somewhere? All 100 positions staffed by women? You do know of all women flights, right? Air India flew one recently. All women flights, everyone is a woman. Is there an all woman retail outlet? No. I mean, I find out. Obviously, you're not doing it. So is there something worth exploring? So this is one, it's gender role, something which retail needs to understand. The third, I think, is becoming stronger and stronger every day, is this picking up causes. And let me play one ad which some of you may have seen. This whole thing about accepting LGBT. Now, I don't know whether there is any lesson for retail to look at, are we accepting causes? Should we adopt some causes? Do we have a measure of employing differently abled people, etc., etc. But this is where brands are going, which I thought I should talk about. Lastly, just 3 slides on social trends. And economy is expected to grow. If economy is going to grow at 7.5%, retail will probably grow at 10, 15, 20%. And retail is going to become more and more important as a brand building tool. So what are we doing in terms of managing that? And lastly, what should be the role of business in the larger context of society? Now we are moving towards an era where companies are now saying, what is my social agenda? So every single brand has what we call rational promise, emotional promise. And today we are saying that we need to have a third leg, which is the social promise. What is our social promise? What is the brand's social agenda going to be? Is it going to be use less water? Is it going to be become carbon neutral, etc., etc., etc.? And this is the way the world is changing. This is what brands are embracing. And so moving on, finally, some key mantras which I thought I will share based on what we can pick in advertising. We do a lot of listening to what is happening to consumers, and we try and bring it into advertising. So for the HR professionals, I think, should you go behind the obvious? Should you understand bigger social trends, change the way men, women, young, old are perceived? Should we align practices with trends? Should we invest in small and useful things? For example, in the future, would it be important for every single big, large format retailer to also have a creche for the babies of their employees? And that's coming. That legislation, I'm told, is coming. Okay? And finally, be adaptive to change. So I think to be successful in retail, just as to be successful in advertising, we have developed an ability to look at society, look at changes in societal trends. So all I had to say here was that, to be successful in retail, you probably will have to also look at societal trends. And this is just a glimpse, some lessons from my book. To read the book, you'll probably pick up a lot more. So do pick up the book, and thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you very much.